I am Hannah Mallett. I'm located in the western half of the state. I'm on base quite a bit with the AgVets program, and I'm also a business development assistant with KCARD. So I help with business plans and helping review some of the grants. Glad for you guys to join us tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. Yeah, so I guess now for the reason why we're all here, right? So we've got Logan Crawford and Allie Hulett here with us tonight. They're also colleagues of Hannah and I, and they're here to talk to you about preparing for a loan and funding opportunities for your business. So with that, I'll turn it over to the two of you to introduce yourself and kick things off for us.
Good evening. Happy to be here and talk to you all. I'm looking forward to questions and getting to know you all virtually. My name is Allie Hulett, Business Development Specialist with KCARD. I'm in the Central Kentucky area in Garrett County. Work with several different enterprises throughout KCARD. Been here a little over 2 years. So, Logan, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Logan Crawford, and I live in Pulaski County, South Central Kentucky. And I've been with KCARD for a little over a year now as a business development assistant.
Hannah, can you share our presentation, or do we have access to share that?
You should be able to share it. If not, I can pull it up.
Okay. Just one moment. Can you all see that okay?
Yeah, looks great.
Right, good deal. Logan, I'll let you kick it off here.
All right. So tonight we're going to talk about what to expect and how to prepare for getting a loan. So we'll go on and get started here. So some initial thoughts to consider. Getting a loan to purchase a farm, or you may be getting an operating loan. This can seem like a very challenging task from the outside, especially if you don't have a ton of experience previously with obtaining financing. Farmers are oftentimes will have questions about what information they're going to have prepared to successfully obtain a loan and how long the process is going to take. But with just a little bit of preparation on your part, the process can be much more manageable than it may seem at first. And one thing that is important to consider is always try to find a lender that fits your needs best, because they're going to work for you. That's what their job is. So find a lender that you're comfortable with and that's going to help you along the way. And we're just going to kind of get into some tips on how to prepare for getting a loan. So one thing to consider is gathering the necessary documentation that is required. Lenders are often going to want to review financial statements, tax returns, business plans, and entity documents at the beginning of the loan process. This kind of lays the roadmap of what they need to do and what all they'll ask for later. The owners of the farm should also expect a lender to probably pull a credit report to be able to determine a complete debt service on that client, especially if you're kind of lumping everything together, personal and farm. If not, they may look at it a little differently. Experienced farmers will more than likely be able to provide historical tax returns and financial statements, but new farmers will need to provide financial projections. That way the lender will be able to estimate cash flows and also kind of anticipate how the repayment is going to go. A few examples real quick of documents that lenders will often request: tax returns. If this is a personal return, then you're going to want to give in a Schedule F or a Schedule C, or business returns. Typically 3 years historical is what a lender will ask for. Another common thing they'll want to see is a W-2 or a 1099, a personal financial statement, or if you have a business, this would be a balance sheet, a cash flow statement, copies of short-term and long-term notes, a deed to a property that's being purchased or any collateral that's being pledged, and then a business plan, articles of incorporation, and then if this is a new venture, a new business, they'll want to see a cost estimate or a construction estimate. So we kind of mentioned description of business and farm operations, which would be contained inside of a business plan. And like I said here, this is part of a business plan, and a lender may not always require a business plan for a farm loan per se, but if you have one in place, this will really help the lender be able to more quickly understand your plans, and this will help them to kind of be a little bit quicker to get the ball rolling on a loan, as long as everything is documented very well. That way, they're not having to ask several different questions initially. They can read one document and typically get all the answers that they're going to need out of a well-written business plan. And this kind of leads us into our next section here, which would be a financial plan. You also have to have some sort of financial plan when you're going to apply for a loan. There will more than likely be some sort of startup costs that you're going to have. This may be what you're trying to finance. And then the loan, of course, you'll be looking for a capitalization strategy. And then also a lender, if you're getting into a new business, they're going to want to know, what is your inventory management system going to look like for you to be able to successfully track your inventory? What kind of accounting system are you going to utilize? This is also a key factor when a lender is making a loan. They're also going to want to have proof of insurance, especially if you're buying a new farm. They're going to want to make sure that farm is covered and all the assets on it. And then, of course, there's risk management to consider, and then also financial projections. Like I said, if you're buying a new farm or entering into a new agriculture business, you're going to have some sort of financial projections, try to estimate a couple of years worth of income, and then a cash flow, and then finally a balance sheet.
Yeah, so like Logan said, financial projections are extremely important when it comes to new and existing business. It can show your projected growth if it's a new business, or if you're adding an enterprise to your farm, you could project out what that would look like in the future, 1 to 3 years, or even past that. And a couple of those documents that we look at KCARD, like Logan mentioned, would be a balance sheet, which is like a point in time. I like to think of it as if you take a picture of your financial records at that point, like it's that single point in time, and you can look at it's what you own versus what you owe, whereas an income statement is a period of time. So I like to think of that as like a video a little bit. Someone told me that years ago. That's an easy way for me to remember. But that can be broke down in cash or accrual accounting. Items that you'll look at in an income statement would include sales, COGS, which is cost of goods sold, expenses, and your net income. How much are you truly netting off of that business? And then lastly, cash flow statement. In this statement, only cash transactions are included. So typically kind of the formula for that would be net cash equals cash inflow minus outflow. So those are 3 very important documents to consider if you're adding or already have an existing business. That is a good way to measure your success financially. Like I said, you'll need to measure that with those documents, but a couple ways that you can do so are evaluation methods. And we always like to put these in business plans as well. That way you can actually measure what you're managing. Those could be key performance measures. Some examples include number of customers, amount of sales. That could be in dollar or the amount that you're selling to, how many customers you have. Like I said, number of transactions or sales per transaction, what that amount is if you average it out. And then also sales forecasts, projections 3 to 5 years out, broken down line by line. So if you raise tomatoes and cucumbers, break that up. Which one is costing you more to produce? Which product are you making more off of? Things like that. So kind of switching gears here a little bit. Kentucky is unique in the fact that it has a couple different low interest loan options for farmers and ag businesses. And I won't get into the weeds too far, but I'll kind of briefly run over these. The first is the Farm Service Agency. That's to all 50 states. But in Kentucky, you have farm ownership and farm operating loans through the Farm Service Agency that are available to ag producers. Those are broken down into direct, joint, and down payment financing options. And typically FSA changes their interest rate the first of each month based on the Fed rate at that time. But all of that can be found on their website. And a lot of farmers utilize their programs on their operation to capture that lower interest rate, especially if they're just getting started. Secondly, this is unique to Kentucky only, is the Kentucky Agriculture Finance Corporation. You'll hear it called KAFC, and they have 5 different loan programs that service farm and ag businesses. It's a state-run program. They have the Beginning Farmer Loan Program, and that makes up about 70% of their loan portfolio. A ton of beginning farmers utilize this program. That could be to purchase a farm, equipment, buy into some type of enterprise. It is not used for operating funds at all, but more so capital. They have the Ag Infrastructure Loan Program. So if you're building anything on your farm, it would be covered there. You don't necessarily have to be a beginning farmer to apply for that program. Have the Ag Processing Loan Program, to processing of seed, further processing, any business related to agriculture is covered there. Next, this one is a little bit wordy. It's the Diversification Through Entrepreneurship and Ag Loan Program, but you hear it called DEAL program. That's basically an ag business or ag entrepreneurship. So if you're purchasing a feed store, feed mill, things like that would be covered under that program. And then lastly, the Large Animal Veterinarian Program. That program is specifically for large animal vets and getting started in their practices. Their interest rate is 2.75%, and that's set. That does not change every month like FSA does, and a 15-year term. It's a participation loan only, and I'll go into more on the next slide about that. So a lot of times in Kentucky specifically, farmers and beginning farmers in particular utilize a couple of these loan programs that I mentioned, and they'll combine them together to get an overall lower blended rate. So that can be referred to as direct or joint financing. So if you joint Ag Finance and the Farm Service Agency together, that would be known as joint financing. So direct versus joint can be dependent on the size of the loan. Because there's cap out amounts at both FSA and Ag Finance KFC. But direct financing, you would use primary lender or FSA. They offer both of those. So if you go to a community bank or farm credit, ag credit, any type of institution like that, you can get direct financing or use FSA, also known as participation loans that I mentioned on the last slide. You could pair these together. Your primary lender or your preferred bank with FSA, your primary lender or preferred bank with Ag Finance, or your primary lender with Ag Finance and FSA if it's a larger loan. They do those often to, again, mitigate the risk for the lender, but also lower the rate for the beginning farmer. So like Logan said, there's a lot to prepare when you're preparing for a loan or getting started in any business or farm at all. But it's important to remain patient during the process. Typically, a loan will close between 30 and 60 days. If you're working with AgFinance or FSA, you can look at more like 90 days, potentially longer after your application date. There are certain circumstances that could prolong the process. It varies depending on the loan structure, the size of the loan, appraisal procedures, closing attorneys if they're backed up. But it is important to choose a lender that works best for you and that you're comfortable with and have confidence in. And if you're wanting to utilize the programs I mentioned on the last slides, it's important to find someone that's comfortable and familiar with those programs because that could speed up the process. Those programs will work with any of your lenders as long as they're located in the state. But if they already have knowledge of the program, then they're kind of a step ahead. But with little upfront preparation and clear communication, it can be smoother than you think. But you must remain patient because, like I said, a lot of times, especially low interest programs, they take a little bit longer in time to get those closed out. But in the long run, if you're getting that lower rate, if you're just getting started, it can be really beneficial to your farm or business. So with that, we kept it short, but we're here for questions and happy to answer any question you may have.
Hi, yeah, I had a question. I had talked with KFC before, and I was looking at utilizing them and Central Kentucky Ag Credit together, and they only work within certain counties. So if we go outside, so yeah, let me preface that with we don't have a farm yet. We're in the beginning stages. We're still working to get there. But if I were to use a private loan, do you know, would KFC be able, would it be possible to refinance that using KFC and another lender once I already have a loan,
Yeah, right. Typically, KFC doesn't do any refinancing at all unless it's like
Okay.
an extreme circumstance. Yeah. So my gut is telling me no. That's what their guidelines say, unless it's for some specific reason. Yeah.
Okay. But it would be useful for us with infrastructure things, though.
Yes, and you don't have to be a beginning farmer to apply for the infrastructure program. So you could use that later on if you're wanting to build some infrastructure on your farm once you get going.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So how long, Allie or Logan, how long would you expect to wait if you made an application with FSA, for example, or Kentucky Ag Finance?
I'll answer this. So Kentucky Ag Finance, depending when you turn the application in, 30 to 60 days. To close, 90 days, because they accept their applications the third Friday of every month, and then they vote on them the second Friday of the following month. So if you were to turn it in this month, it wouldn't go in front of their board until the second week of April. So you would know if you were approved that second Friday of April. And then at that point, it would just be closing, which could turn around as quickly as a month, maybe a little bit longer. With FSA, 3 months until closing, if you have all of your paperwork ready when you turn in your application, like the documents Logan talked about at the beginning. Could go out as far as 12 months or longer because their paperwork process is a little more stringent than KFC, but gives you an idea.
And I'll chime in on what Allie was